What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves? Physically, emotionally, and spiritually.
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing the past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. And this is the healing technique that we've now been teaching it, well, since 2002, that's 12 years.
What if you could time travel with them? Visit mythical places or angelic realms, other worlds, other galaxies. Help others to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT, and now you can learn her method by going directly to dolorescannon.com. And don't forget to mention the discount code MORETALKS.
Established over 100 years ago, Watkins Books is one of the world's oldest and leading independent bookshops specializing in esoterica. We have the widest selection of esoteric books in the UK, and our friendly and knowledgeable staff are here to assist you in a unique ambience of our shop. So come and visit us in the heart of London as we're open every day.
The More Show is supported by Mindscape, Paranormal and UFO Matrix magazines, available for download on all major digital platforms. The comments and views expressed on The More Show are those of the people that make them and do not necessarily reflect the view of Kevin Moore, The More Show, or this radio station and its affiliate or sponsors. This show is for entertainment purposes only.
Broadcasting from the UK and across the world online. You're now watching the UK's only alternative late night talk show, and I'm your host, Kevin Moore. For the next hour, I'll be covering subjects that will open up your mind and provide you with information you may have never heard before. On today's show, I'm joined with Alex Lader, who came from a mining family and lived in the northeast of England. His family moved to the Midlands in 1962, settling in the Tamworth area. Now, his early working years were spent in an engineering environment, working for companies based in the Midlands, UK. In 1971, Alex moved into the financial services. Now, during his life, Alex has experienced several out-of-body experiences and 2 near-death experiences, but nothing prepared him for the fateful day in May 2011 when his beloved Pat passed away after suffering breast cancer. He joins me today to discuss his 2 books since her passing and his work as a medium and channel. Alex Lader, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Kevin.
It is so good to have you on, and I only booked you recently to come on, and you've got a lot going on right now with moving and everything else, so it was best to come on as soon as possible. So, yours is a very interesting story, and your website's just on the screen now. It's at granddadbooks.com. And again, this is channeled information we're covering today as well, so it's really, really going to be interesting for the audience. Now, let's just get into your backstory first, because I think we need to cover this. I think that's important to get a gist of, the journey that you've been on. Now, okay, I'm 37 as I do this interview right now. I've been blessed to be able to look into these subjects of spirituality and really go into a whole different new paradigm with it. And I'm guessing at 37, if you can think back to 37, you was just trying to keep a roof over your head, were you not?
This is absolutely true. My spirituality really kicked off with the passing of my wife. However, I would say that when I was 11, I had an out-of-body experience. I lived in a mining village in County Durham of about maybe 1,000 people. And I can tell you now, I never told anybody because they would have locked me up. I think over my lifetime, I've had various spiritual experiences which I totally ignored because I was keeping a roof over my head. I was a reasonably successful financial advisor for 40 years. And all of this changed when my wife passed. She was a great woman. She was a fantastic wife, a fantastic person. And I believe we had what I call true love, unconditional love. Because it didn't matter what she did, we just loved each other. And, I've gone through this thing of grief, which we all go through in these situations. And it's very painful. But the pain is the love. And I can honestly say I don't think there's a person alive that would say they would not suffer the pain for the love.
No, absolutely not. And I want to get into the grief because I know that's an important part of this work as well. Because no matter how spiritual we are and aware that we are, we're here, we're in present moment, and it's a human part of this experience to go through, and you can't deny it. No way can you deny it. Just going back to Pat as well. Was she very sort of spiritual? Was there any?
No.
No.
Oh my God, she would have been laughing her socks off. Believe you me.
Really?
I bet you she was one really surprised lady when she passed over. I know that she was still with us because the night she passed over, after she had passed, how this happened I don't know, but she wrapped her hand around my thumb. And I could hear her in my head saying, "Don't go yet, I'm not ready. I'm not ready yet." And I sat with her for 20 minutes. And on my way home, I said to her, "Let me know you're all right. If you're okay, I'll be okay." The next day, I rang my sister up in the northeast, and she said to me, she picked the phone up straight away. She said, "She's passed, hasn't she?" And I said, "Yes." She said, "She's just been here." Absolutely beautiful. Her hair in a bob, brilliant, looking really great. And what she was doing, she was telling the one lady in this world I would believe, my sister, that she was okay.
Now, isn't that incredible? Because your sister, I believe, if I'm from right here, wasn't as well it wasn't really into the subjects of life after death or the continuation of the soul, was she?
I believe she's quite powerful, but she is not registering it or wanting to, because she lives in a little mining village and it's not the thing.
No.
And I can understand that.
Absolutely.
Having lived there and done the same thing myself, I do understand that. But I think she's quite powerful by something she said before. But Pat knew that Anne would be the one to talk to show herself
to. Just the right person, as you say, just the right person. And she did believe because it was that of a real experience to your sister. Now, just for the audience as well, what did Pat pass away from? What was this? Was it cancer?
Well, originally it was breast cancer, was an illness, but that developed into a bone cancer, and she died from bone cancer.
Now, you obviously the doctors. I mean, that must have been a shock, though. Let's go back to the time when that diagnosis was given by the doctor. I mean, what did she have, like a year to live, was it?
Well, we didn't know that at the time, but it was exactly 1 year to the day that she passed. From knowing that she had cancer to dying was 1 year.
Yeah. Yeah, and again, just putting a context here as well. At the time, you would never have considered life after death or spirituality. I mean, these subjects.
Oh yeah, I believe in it.
Oh, right.
I've always believed
Right.
in it. Ever
Okay.
since I had that out of body
Got you.
experience, I've always believed. 20 years ago, I had a major bleed, and I died 3 times in one day, and they brought me back. And the third time, in a local hospital, I stood next to the surgeon while they were operating on me. And I can remember saying to myself, if I get out of this, I'm going to change. Because, Kevin, let me tell you, the Alec Lady you're talking to is a far different man to the one prior to passing away.
Right. Now, okay. Now that puts a lot of context on it. Right. Absolutely. Yeah. So you did have some. You've okay. So when you felt that then that Pat was going back home in a sense, that this wasn't the end for her, but you obviously you two didn't discuss this though, did you, in that year's work?
Oh, we did. She used to laugh at me. Seriously, she used to laugh at me.
Right.
But I always thought it would be me who would. I was much older than Pat, and I thought it would be me who would pass, and I'd go back and blooming haunt her. But actually, it's worked out absolutely the other way around.
Yeah.
And she doesn't haunt me, but she keeps me on the straight line.
Oh, she does. Oh, she does. Yeah, absolutely, she does. Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. But okay, now, for people, and okay, do you think as well that people can experience the grief that you've experienced if it's a very painful relationship breakup as well, as though someone's left them and gone out of their life? Do you think that could be somewhere near the same as the experience of that you've been through as well?
Well, I feel it must be, because at some point those people loved each other. The paths might have widened, or they might have wandered off the paths a bit, but at some point in time they were joined. They were together. They may have had kids together, and there must be at the past. I've had a previous wife pass. I didn't know for a lot of years after that she'd passed, but I was upset.
Right. Okay,
because we had some very good times together. We had a daughter together, and I was definitely upset. I believe grief is it's a strange old animal, really. I've lost my mum and dad. And I can honestly say, as much as I loved them, I didn't feel the loss as much as I did with Pat.
Can I ask you something with Pat? When you guys met, how long was it before you knew you were going to be together, or before you got married as well? Was it quite quick?
Yeah, I would say so. It wasn't me. I didn't know, but I don't know nothing, me. But she knew. She rang me within a day of meeting me, and she said something along the lines of, Alec, it's Pat. And I'm thinking, Pat who? And she told me from where, and she said, don't say anything, I want to tell you that I love you, that we're going to get married, and we're going to spend the rest of our lives together. And that was after one day.
Okay, no, my parents, they met and it was very quick, so yeah. And now, as a man, when someone tells you that, now you could probably relate that to someone like Pat and say, okay, I could go with that. But did it scare you when she was like that towards you a bit?
No, I just said to her, Pat, I'd just like to remind you, you're married to somebody. I have nothing to do with married women, and I suggest you put your life right before you ring me again.
Right.
What she did,
right.
It took her 4 months, and she sorted it, and she rang me again. And that in itself was a strange thing. I was in the office one evening waiting to go on a call. I used to do a lot of night calls as a financial advisor, but I never answered the phone when I was in the office because the place was closed. This night the phone rang. I picked up the phone, Alec Legler, and she said, hello, Alec, it's Pat. I've left him. I'm now living here. I've got my son with me. Now will you go out with me? And I said yes.
Yeah, it's almost like, isn't it, that she knew, didn't she? She knew you were the one. She just knew, and
Absolutely.
it wasn't some strange overbearing knowing. It was just something very deep, wasn't it? And
It went to
yeah,
the wire,
yeah,
to the very fact that on that night I held her hand, looked into her eyes, and told her it was time for her to go.
right, right, okay, okay, and I'm sure a lot of people can relate to this. I'm sure this is going to help a lot of people. This interview. Um, okay, let's move to the grief part now. It's a bit like depression, isn't it? I think you'd agree on. Um, it's a whole mixture of things. Grief, isn't it? Anger as well is one of them. Anger is one of them.
I
What?
believe there's various stages of grief, and I've gone through most of them. I would say we don't all go through the same stages in the same pattern. I think it's varied by the persons themselves. I think anger, I think depression are big parts of disbelief. Really, I think is one of the biggest things. The main thing to understand is you're not on your own. There are hundreds, thousands of people going through this blooming thing called grief, and we will all get through it. One way or another, we will all find the will, find the spirit inside of us to get through it because of the person we've lost. That I think is so important. It might take 5 years. I don't think my mum ever got over my dad. And she was more years without him than she was with him. I'm not over Pat. I want to move on in this earthly existence. But I know the moment I cross over, my wife and my son will be waiting for me because they've told me.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter what I do now, forward until that time, whether I have another wife, which I won't have, but I might have a partner, I might have a companion, I hope I do, but there will only be one Pat. Although there's actually been three Pats, but she always said she was Pat number 3, but actually she always knew she was Pat number 1.
Absolutely, absolutely, and we were talking about this off air as well, about your right, to be happy. And I didn't mention this exactly, but I mean, Pat, she would want you to be happy. I'm sure she's told you that. I'm sure she has.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
and you're not betraying her. Yeah, this is. There is no jealousy or any envy on the side where we cross over to. I don't believe it's like that. I believe all they want. No, absolutely, all they want is you to be loved.
Unconditional love
Yeah,
is exactly what it says it is. There's no envy, there's no jealousy, it's just pure love. And this is when the heart and the soul come together by two people. And it doesn't matter what you say, what you do. I'm not saying Pat and I didn't have arguments. Oh, for God's sake, we did. We just came to terms with each other and enjoyed.
yeah. Well, you had one of the key ingredients. That's communication.
Yeah.
You could go with an argument, but you know what? You could damn well sort it out as well.
Do you know what, Kev? I never argued. I wouldn't argue. It takes two to argue, and I would say, I'm not arguing with you. And I'd laugh at her. And she'd jump up and down. And then I'd say, I'm going to make a cup of coffee. Do you want one? I wouldn't have a cup of coffee for you if you were the last man on earth. I'd rattle the cups in the kitchen. Are you sure you don't want one? And she'd say, sort of, or words to that effect. And but in the end, she'd come in and say, well, have you made it then? End of argument.
Right.
Or I would walk out the door. I would say, I'm going for a walk. Give me a bell when I can come home. I'd walk round the block. The phone would say, and she said, come on, you silly sod. The kettle's on. You can't argue if one party doesn't want to argue.
Right. These are life hacks that I'm taking here. Absolutely. No, that's good. I like that. Yeah, that's right. I think being ginger sometimes a bit fiery. I was in my previous relationship when it came to arguments, and I think I've had to learn from that big time. But no, that's so true what you say. What about the feeling that when you was going through the grief as well? Did you feel abandoned sometimes? Like, not just abandoned, but alone?
Yeah, I did. There was a point where I felt as though I was in a balloon, a bubble, and I was looking out at the world, and the world was going about its business, and I wasn't taking part. And I used to go to bed every night and I cried. And when I woke up in the morning, I cried again. And that went on for about 4 months. And one of the things with grief is there comes a point where you can get so depressed, you could do self-harm. And I felt I was getting to a point where I might do that. I am a very strong person, and I know I am. But I was at the low ebb. I couldn't talk to the kids because they were going through their own grief. I couldn't explain to people how I felt. So I rang a local hospice and made an appointment to have a chat with a counsellor. At the same time, I decided to donate some money to a local charity who had been very, very good to Pat and to our family. And I rang the lady and I asked if I could go and see her. And she said, come round. And I went round to their house and took this money. And she said, oh, come and meet my husband, Paul. And I knew he was a medium. And I didn't have a lot of time for mediums, to be honest. And so I thought, oh, here we go. Anyhow, I sat down and we were chatting away. And went on for about 3 hours talking. And at the end, he jumped up. I thought, what the hell is he doing? And he said, it's you. He said, there's this great big lump of guilt hanging off you. And if you could get rid of that guilt, there'll be a gate in front of you. You walk through that gate and you are going to have the most fantastic life. And well, I knew what that guilt was. Because years and years and years ago, when I was a lot younger, I left my wife who had got breast cancer because I couldn't cope. I mentally couldn't cope with it, and I walked away. And I carried the guilt of that for 30 years. And I said, okay, I know what that's about. What do I do? And his wife said, go home, write everything down on a piece of paper and set fire to it. And say to the universe, I forgive myself. And do you know what, Kev? You don't mind if I call you Kev, do you? Okay. And I just said to the universe, I forgive myself. And I felt this weight fall off my shoulders. I'm not kidding you, it clunked on the floor. I went to bed that night and I slept like a baby. And I slept like a baby every night since. And I don't cry when I wake up. In fact, I do cry sometimes. Because grief gets you like that. You think you're through the grief, but you aren't. And it just catches you unawares. It's a thought. It might be something somebody says, and it'll just catch you unawares. And you can't do anything about it, so you might as well have a good cry and get it out your system.
Yeah.
Well, that lad said to me those things, and I did what they said. And I've got to say, I've talked to a number of mediums since, and I've had my cards read and all this sort of thing. And I've been told by various mediums, I am going to have the most fantastic life. And Kevin, I am going to have the most fantastic life because do you know what? I'm going to create it.
That is so true, and you are having the most fantastic life. I'll just add that, right, because I know you know that, right? Because of these books that you've done, and the messages that they give. This is so interesting. Let's just move forward a bit here. When did a solid communication happen with Pat? And when did you discover these medium skills that you were awakening to?
Okay. Shortly after Pat passed away, there was a young lad passed up in the northeast. And then another lad in the Midlands died within the family. And the northeast people didn't want to come down for the funeral. And so I offered. He was a friend of mine when we were much younger. He was in a pop group in the 60s, and, you know, we all followed each other around and things like that. Not that I was in a pop group, because I couldn't sing to save my life. However, I rang his family and said I'd be going, and we went to a crematorium in Great Bar, Birmingham. And the vicar man said, we'll say a prayer for John. So as you do, you bow your head. And I wasn't in the church anymore. I was in a room of white light. I believe it's called the Halfway House. And Pat and her dad were there. Nothing was said. She just smiled at me. And when I left there, I just said to her, thank you. I really needed that. And then I went on the phone to Yvonne, Paul's wife, and told her everything that had gone on. Various things happened over those early months. I was at Paul's one night, and he said, oh, I've got Patsy here now. She's wearing blue jeans, and she's this, that, and the other. And when I was driving home, I was thinking to myself, crikey, I wonder how long it'll be before I see her. You know, he's been doing it for 40 years, and I've been doing it for 40 minutes, sort of thing. That night, might have been a dream, but that night she came through to me, and she ran to me. We kissed, we cuddled, we laughed, we cried. It was the most amazing thing that's ever happened to me. It was absolutely fantastic. And I felt like $1 million. I tell you what, I felt like I'd won the lottery 20 million times over. It was such a wonderful feeling. And I couldn't wait to get to Paul's the next morning to tell him what had happened. So the thing, Kevin, it was all so new to me. It was like, if you like, it was like being a pop star in the early 60s when everything was new and it was exciting and, you know, everybody wanted, and that's how it felt. It was just the most amazing, amazing feeling. And then about a month after that, a lady who was related to us through marriage, who was a medium, said to me, you know, there's a boy in heaven. I never said a word, to be honest, because nobody knew that there was a boy in heaven. Pat and I didn't tell anybody. We lost a baby. We didn't tell anybody because the shame of it was we were going to abort this baby because our relationship was very new. It wasn't a good time for either of us to be parents again. Fortunately for us, she miscarried. But we never told anybody. And to be fair, we never talked about it, ever. So I never said anything. She said, he's about 9 years old, he's got sandy hair. And I just carried on talking about what we had been talking about. About 2 months later, Pat brought him through to me. So I met my son, who was then 9 years old. And he was exactly like Pauline had said he was. And he came, and he periodically still comes, but at that time he was coming nearly every night. And it was like he was looking through the looking glass. He must have thought he was Alice looking through the looking glass into a new world, into a different world, you know. But he was always there. And then one morning they both came through and he was stood on his head. And I said to Pat, what's he doing? And then he turned round and they both started laughing and they were playing a joke on me. You know, it was absolutely amazing. And these were the early days of my my mediumship. I went to see a friend a mate of mine, they were going to get married, and my mate decided he wasn't, and he cleared off. And I went to see her, and she run a pub over in the Black Country. And we're upstairs in the flat, and we're talking, and suddenly I'd got a video going on in my mind, and I could see this old lady walking around a kitchen table, laying the table, a big dark Welsh dresser in the kitchen. And I said to the girl, "Does this mean anything to you?" And I told her what I was watching, and she said, "That's my nan." And what her nan was saying to her was, "Don't worry, Lynn, I'm with you. You'll be fine. I'm with you." And as I was walking out on the shelf, there was a photograph of two people. I said, "Who's that lady there?" She said, "That's my mum, but she looks exactly like my nan." It was the same. And that was my first bit of mediumship.
And absolutely, and thank you for sharing that. And since then as well, how has that mediumship grown? I mean, are you able to give readings to people now, or is that something you wouldn't do?
I do give readings, but not in the sense that my friend Stephen does in front of hundreds of people. I could be in a restaurant or whatever. I could be sat with you having a meal, and I'll get the voices. And give you an example of that. My Wi-Fi went all to pieces here, and I had to get the guys in to sort it out. As he walked through the door, he's a big bulky fella, a bruiser, if you like. And a voice in my head was saying, "You need to talk to him." And I go, "Why?" He said, "Never mind, you need to talk to him." And so he did the checks in the hat, and then he went in, come into the office here to look at the Wi-Fi thing, the router. And as he walked through, of the voice, "Give him a book." "No, give him a book. He needs a book." So, okay. So I got a book. I said, "Look, I can't explain this, but I'm being told you need one of these." So I gave him the book. And I sat down at my desk, and I looked at him, and stood behind him was a young girl. And I said to him, "If I said to you there was a young girl stood behind you, about 21, 22, would that mean anything to you?" And he just burst into tears. And I said, "This girl is saying to you, it's time to forgive yourself. It's time for both of you to forgive yourselves. I forgive you. And I love you both. And it hurts me to see you two hurting each other because you can't talk about me." And what had happened was, when they were younger, hard up, they'd aborted a baby. And this girl was that baby.
Wow.
He cried. And I just said to him, "The message for you is there's only the pair of you hurting each other. No one else is blaming you for anything. It's just you and your wife." And he said, "You know, on the anniversary, we don't even talk to each other." I said, "Well, what your girl is telling you, enough is enough. It's time." And he went, and I said to him, "Are you all right?" And because he was crying as he walked up the road to the van. And on the night, I was on Facebook, and a request came through from this woman, and I thought, "Oh, I don't really know you." But I always check people who ask to become friends. And it was his wife. So I accepted a friendship, and she sent me a message, and she just said, "Thank you for what you've done for us today." Actually, I'm getting emotional now. "For what you've done for us today, we will never be able to thank you enough."
Oh, and that's so nice. Eh? And especially,
That's
yeah,
mediumship.
yeah, and
that is spiritual healing.
yeah, yeah, and the confirmation that comes from that. How could you have known? How would you have known? You know because of your gift, but I'm saying in general, if you're not open to that, you wouldn't have known.
No.
Lots of proof, though, isn't it, for you?
It's. I don't need proof. I just know that there's these fantastic things going on for me. I know that I'm I've been told many things, to be honest, by the universe, by my higher self, whatever we want it to be. I am an old soul. I have had many, 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 many lives over millennia. And I have recalled some of those lives. I think we all have the ability. We all have it within us if we raise our vibration to a level that is acceptable. It's like tuning into what we're doing. If you're not tuned in properly to the radio, what happens? You get crackles and you get distortion and everything. Well, vibration's the same. Unless you're tuned in finely to it, you're not going to get anywhere with it.
No, and sometimes, unless you've gone through the mill, and you've gone through life and it's been as painful as it has for you, sometimes you're not going to switch these abilities on, or they come on at the right time, like they did for you. Perhaps for you prior to Pat passing would not have been the right time, but with Pat's passing, unfortunately, it has to be like this, doesn't it? With her passing, that's when they get switched on. That's when they become activated, should you wish to go down that path, which you have, with free will, chosen to do.
Someone said to me that Pat died so I could go on this journey, and it upset me. And until you realise that we all have our day, if you like, our day of destiny. Pat's day of destiny was that day. It doesn't matter what she died from. She could have been run over. She could have had a heart attack. Anything. She would have died on that day at that time. Destiny. My destiny was to be with her and to help her cross over. And thank God I was able to do that. Can I just go back a little bit on that day?
Sure, please do.
The lady who I went to see to give the money to, I call her Yvonne. I'm sure she wouldn't mind. Then on the Sunday, I rang her. For some reason, I just felt I needed to ring her. I'd only met her once, I think. And I said, look, Pat's in St. Giles Hospice. Would you like to go and say, oh, I'd love to. I said, well, look, I'm going in the morning. I'll pick you up and we'll go together. And so I did that. And when we were going over, we chit-chatted all the way over. When we walked into the room, Pat's body was floating above the bed. And it was covered in gold and white light. And I thought, wow, what in God's name is going on here? Truth, I thought it was Yvonne, because I believe her to be an earth angel. And I'm thinking, I said, look, I don't know what's going on between you two. I'm going to go and see the sister. And I left the room. And I went to see the sister, who told me that Pat was bleeding internally and that, the time was coming. Anyhow, we come back, went back. I only allowed half an hour for visiting, so she didn't get tired. And on driving back, Yvonne said to me, do you believe in regression? She asked me, she was asking me questions that I couldn't grasp how she would want to ask those kinds. And I said I did, but I wasn't ready to do it. She told me her husband was a medium and various things. About 6 weeks after that, after Pat had died, them upstairs, which I'll use as a phrase, them upstairs told me that what I watched was the beginning of Pat's soul's ascension. Wow. How do you get your head round that? I'm thinking it's this other lady and it's me watching my wife's soul ascend.
Wow. That is just so amazing. That is just so...
As I say, most of this has been beyond me for quite a lot of months.
Yeah.
At the beginning, I just couldn't grasp half of it. And Paul was fantastic, as was Yvonne. They were able to guide me through the different things. I went to one of his spiritual meetings.
Yep.
And we're in a circle. And there was an American lady sat next to me. She was visiting. And he started talking about the American West at the turn of the century and about a lady with 3 kids. And it turns out it's this girl's grandmother. And he's saying there's a black American lady helping. And she's got all these vivid colours. And the next thing I know, this bloody lady is stood in front of me. And I'm thinking, God, where have you come from? It frightened the life out of me. Truth. I got up and walked out.
Right.
I couldn't understand. And I went into the other room. There was a girl there, and she said, "You all right?" And I said, "No." I said, "I don't understand." And I told her what had happened. She said, "Alec, don't worry about it. It's going to happen to you all the time, and you'll get used to it." But that was my first experience of being in a circle and having this lady. I couldn't understand. Did I go to her? Did she come to me?
Yeah, and how did you? And if she did come to you, how did you? What was the attraction towards you, that you were open, that you were starting to be an open vessel, and that that you were able to bring messages from her to wherever these messages needed to go to. Yeah, maybe just the people.
The thing was, for a long time, I couldn't take the messages.
Right.
Because I didn't know what I was doing, and it's only sort of the last 3.5 years that's really come about, and I started writing everything down. But I don't think people would grasp the enormity of where I've been. Took out into the solar system in the middle of the night. A dream? Yeah, it could have been a dream. But I was told I'm not a human being, I'm a cosmic being.
Yeah. And would you say that we're all cosmic beings?
Of course we are. Because this skin and bone is the spacesuit.
Yeah, I love
your
that.
Your soul
yeah.
is your true being.
Yeah. And with a spacesuit, which I love that phrase, by the way, that's a really good one. You need the spacesuit to breathe, don't you, in outer space? And just like you need the
Absolutely.
body to be able to exist down in this reality, for the soul to have an experience. So look after the spacesuit, know that it's only temporary, and that when you take it off, that as we do when we come back to planet Earth, we go back home, just as the soul takes it off.
We let go and we go home.
Yeah. Yeah. There's so many questions. Oh, God. Right. Okay. When did the channeling start for you then, in a sense? Which I'm guessing was a separate voice to Pat's. Maybe your own voice.
Totally. It's them upstairs. I just say them upstairs. And it's obviously my higher self, because a lot of the channeling I did was simulated with my situation at that time. Like the grief things I've done that I talk about, the love, those sort of things are all part and parcel of me. And so I think that comes from within as well. It's all part of me as a being. When I first started going to the meetings, I never used to take a writing pad or anything. And they used to say, "Don't you want to write anything down?" I said, "No, I remember it." Okay, so that was that. And then one day I decided to take a pad. And one of the girls who goes, she'd been told to buy me a pad. A book, which might have been filed away, but she was told to buy me a book, and she bought me this beautiful book, leatherback book, for my birthday. So that would have been March 2012. That's when I started channeling, and I promised her I would not use that book to scribble. So every time I channeled, I had A4 paper, and then when I'd finished, I'd write it in this book in neat handwriting. And so that book has got the 2 books handwritten in it. That's my first copy of both books, is in that book that that lady bought me.
That's
And
incredible.
I treasure it.
That's incredible.
So much so that I've forgotten where I put it. But I do treasure it. And one day I shall give her that book and say, you sent me with it. This is yours. And it's the 2 books totally that I've written. And I just write down. And I've got loads of papers with them all on, you know. And
Well, okay. I'm just going to read one excerpt from one of the books. Now, I don't think. Well, I might be wrong here. I just get the feeling that you wasn't. Jesus wasn't one of your things that you studied that much. No. And this is in the book. This is the first book, I think. Let me just.
the first book.
I think this is from the first book. Granddad, you have a message, because obviously your second book, Granddad, you have a message too through the eyes of a child. But this is from the first book, and it says, enlightenment, the road to salvation. When Jesus talked to the masses, he was not always liked or accepted. There were many who feared him and the message he was given. It was these fears and prejudices that found him on the cross. But little did they know that this very action would be the thing that would change the world forever. His energy would carry on through the centuries, reaching the people who needed to be reached. And now, a new age of enlightenment, we find ourselves reaching out to peoples of like-minded who need to be shown the way. That things cannot go on as they are, and that the earth cannot go on as it is, and that by giving each other and the earth love, can we be enlightened and find the road to our salvation. Now, that's very deep. That's just a tiny excerpt from this book, yeah. And again, there's so many. When I reread this, I was like, yeah, I could feel that. There's a lot of truth in that. They feared him and the message he was given. He didn't go on the cross for people. He was. He was radical in a sense with the spiritual teachings that he was given. Nor did he want a religion after his name, absolutely not. But I think he knew that by incarnating into this reality, that it was a possibility. But yeah, it's incredible, all this information, and it's written in such a different way as well. So you say this is your higher self, and I can go along with that because that's how it's working for me. But obviously, this higher self is very, very wise.
This higher self is very, very old. One of my reincarnations, regression, was as a child sat at the feet of an elder in Jesus' time. That's quite a few years ago. I deserve a bigger pension than what I get. Okay, it was a joke.
No, absolutely.
No,
you do.
it's true.
Oh.
And I think the thing there is, it's where fear drives people to do things they wouldn't normally do. And those elders at that time were so afraid of the greatest healer that ever walked the earth, without any shadow of a doubt. They were so frightened of him, they felt that by crucifying him, by murdering him in effect, they'd be shot of him for good. And in actuality, that never happened. And what they made was a saint. They made a hero. They made someone who people would look to forever and a day. But they didn't know that at the time. They'd have probably lavished gifts on him if they'd have thought he was going to do that.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, there's so many different channelings in here. I mean, you talk about love a lot. Love is a big part of this, and oneness you talk about a lot. I know we talked off air about, you feel that a lot of people do not have a clue or don't really resonate to what they think they know what oneness is, but actually it's you have come from a different understanding of it in a sense.
I think that we all come here as either teacher or pupil. And in fact, we're both. We're a bit of both. We learn off some people and we teach other people. I don't think it's my job to teach people spirituality. I believe they're already spiritual. I believe my job is to show them my light. And they then see the light and they think, wow, he is different. What is different about him? Why is he like that? And they look and they find their own light, and they find, I can't understand people who have found the light, who hide behind a bush or behind a wall in case someone sees them and asks, what the hell are you doing? What's going on? What's the point? If you don't Jesus put his head above the wall.
True, it's so true.
And I believe if that's what we're doing, if we're trying to show a light to the rest of the world, to the universe, then we have to stand up and be counted. We've got to walk the walk. We've got to talk you've got to go the whole way, Kevin, because otherwise it's not going to go there. This world of ours is in dire straits, absolute dire straits, from one load of idiots to another. And it's time that the universe, they're waiting for us to come together and put it right.
Yes, I completely. I mean, I was watching the news today, and I just, seeing the. I mean, this will be old news, but in years to come when people watch this back. But just today, it's the, whatever, and it's almost March in 2016, and the refugee camps in Calais are being cleared, and there's this masses of refugees trying to cross borders right now, and it's just very, very sad to see it all. It upset me actually earlier on.
We're going off spirituality a bit here, and I don't really want to do that. But there's people on this earth who don't deserve to be here. There's an elitist group of people who are ruining everything for everybody through greed. Their greed for power, for control over us, and I'm talking here religions, I'm talking politicians, I'm talking bankers. We're being captured. We are being enslaved by a system of debt brought on by these elitist people who really don't want us here.
Yeah, well,
but that's another.
It is. I know. I've actually got David Icke coming on in a couple of days, and
he knows all about it. Believe you me, that man.
He does.
That man was hounded 20 years ago.
Yeah.
That man has proved to be 100% right.
Yes, and you've got to go with your truth, and some people, I mean, I don't. What I don't like is fear-based stuff. Right, and I'm not saying we're talking about fear-based stuff right now, because we're not. These are absolute facts. Yeah. But I don't see. I see the only way out of this problem that we're in is through spirituality and unconsciousness, and looking at it from a different perspective, which is why you're in the light now as well, and spreading your messages. That's why you're going to be on more shows than just this show you're on now. But you're reaching audiences, and you're telling your truth, and you're helping people to see this greater reality, and that the power that we all have. So that's the answer. I feel that it's got to come from a spiritual perspective, as we talk about oneness and we talk about love, which is the prime thing that's through your books as well. And that's there's a lot. I mean, I only picked that one for Jesus out because it was so left-centered in a sense from who you are, but it came through. Do you think as well? Do you get any information that's a new type of information that's coming through as well in your channelings?
I believe that there are peoples not of this planet who are keeping an eye on us, who are watching and waiting for the Earth's vibration to lift high enough for them to help us. I truly believe that. I'm not sure I should be saying this. I've got to go home after this.
It's okay. You're in a safe environment.
I've I've had a few experiences. One of them I did mention to you the other day was I had a really, really, really bad back for many
Oh
years.
yes, I remember.
And the pain levels of that back, it was horrendous. I went to the doctor. The doctor said I could have an operation, which would have left like a 4-inch hole in the bottom of my back, or painkillers. So, being a coward, I took the painkillers. And I was taking paracetamol by the bloody score at one time, and it never touched me. I go to Holland once a year to see my favourite musician in his hometown. And it's a bit of a journey to get there, aeroplane, coaching, and different things. And my back was killing me. I couldn't sit down. And when I came back from that, I lay in bed one night in agony, and I said to the universe, I need help. Please help me. That night I had a dream. And I dreamt that I was taken into a flying saucer, drawn through a big black open grill at the front, into a room of light. And there were 2 beings in there, and they loved me. They cuddled me, they wrapped their arms around me. I know there was 2 because their eyes, which were beautiful blue colour, very similar to what's on your sign at the back of you there. And the next morning I woke up and I thought, wow, I feel so loved. And do you know what? I didn't have backache. And was it a dream? I don't know. But I'll tell you something, that was over 2 years ago, and I haven't got backache.
And this is what has led you just to that new bit of information that you gave there, this paradigm shift, that there is those, maybe them, whatever we want to call those, that are of a higher vibration than us because they've lived longer and they've seen through their mistakes maybe, and they wouldn't show themselves because otherwise we would look up to them and see them as a god. They're not going to do that. They want to meet us as equals, but there are those waiting to help once we reach a critical mass.
I believe that, but I also believe that they have shown themselves.
True.
Throughout history, civilizations have moved on in leaps.
Yes.
In certain times, and that couldn't have been done under normal circumstance.
No.
It just couldn't have.
No, and that's not saying we're not clever enough. What you're saying there is it would have took a lot longer. We did it in a blink of an eye. Yeah.
We weren't advanced enough. I mean, if you look at the pyramids.
Well, just to have this connection that we've got.
Yeah, what we're doing now.
I know, right? It's just incredible. But we expect it now. We expect now in 5 years for it to be a revolutionary. Again, we now have expected that, where before it would have been, well, this is just just incredible. Wow, like tomorrow's world, but not anymore. No, you're right. I totally agree with you.
I remember as a kid listening to a live program on Cassius Clay fighting, don't know, can't remember his name, on the radio. Live link. That was new. That was mega, that was at the time.
Yeah, that was incredible, wasn't it? Absolutely incredible. Yeah.
Sonny Liston. I remember these things eventually.
No, it's true. It's true what you say, and I can really feel that completely. Just going back to your channeling just very briefly as well. When you do the channeling, would you say it's you hear your voice coming through as though it's still your voice? Is that how it works? But it's that wiser part, or it's a separate voice?
No, it's not even a voice.
Okay.
It's a feeling.
Oh, right. Okay.
It's like when you're with spirit. It's not like you and I talking. It's a feeling, an emotion, a thought in your head. Remember, the spirit hasn't got a voice box. It's pure telepathy. And I believe we're all capable of that. We've just forgotten.
Well, if you think about it, we've all got a higher self, so we're all capable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And even our understanding of the higher self, as me and you have been talking about it very briefly, it may not even be that understanding. It may be so much grander than what even we can even perceive it to be at this level.
I do believe if we are universal beings, I believe that our mind is the same size as the universe, and we can comprehend billions of things that we don't even dream about or think about.
No.
Because we've been conditioned over so many years. I think when you get older, and you find this out when you get a bit older, you're only a young lad yet, but compared to me, that is. But when you get older, you find that all the crap of the world that you've took round your soul starts to unwind, and you begin to see things that you couldn't see before. One of the things that's happened to me really is that, I'm retired now and I don't have all that pressure on me. It was more important in those days to get money to feed the kids, to keep the mortgage going and things like that. I don't have to do any of that anymore. I'm a free agent, if you like, a free spirit that I can go where I want, when I want, not just physically, but mentally as well. Travel and do things, see things that I couldn't before because I was just too bogged down with all the rubbish of the world, and I don't have that anymore.
I can't imagine what that freedom sometimes feels like, but yes, we can. It's a great place to be, and this is why you've got so much going for you right now, and I know you feel that now, and I know you're comfortable more. Well, you're getting more comfortable with that as well. Do you think that you've got another book to bring out? Right.
Book number 3.
Right. Incredible. And do you has it shifted?
Book number 4.
Oh my gosh. Right. Has the information coming through you now, has it shifted at all? Is it a different type of information starting to come through?
I think the first book was intense because of the grief. Because of my feelings were so high pitched, I'm more relaxed now, and I think the channeling I do now is a little bit more relaxed, and I try when it comes through. I find that it's on easy to relate to, if you can see what I mean. It's layman's terms. My friend Paul, he channels. Oh my God! I mean, you got to be right up here to even follow it. Mine isn't like that. Sometimes the message is the same, but it's like me talking to you.
Yeah.
These books. What I want with these books is that they're specific. The size of the book is so it fits in a lady's handbag. You put it on the side of the bed. Because this isn't a book that you're going to pick up from cover to cover and read it. Well, I don't think anybody has up to now. It's something you open up at a page and
Yes.
And you read that one and you see something then and you read another page and you might read half a dozen pages in that, but you're not going to read the whole book in a night.
Yeah.
There's no way. There's no story to it, if you like. I don't know if you read a lot. I love reading,
Yes.
where you get into it and you become a character in the book.
Yeah.
But these books aren't like that. These books are to touch you in a way that it's going to help the light come forward, to help you understand what love is, to help you understand how deep the love can be, to understand the grief, to understand that letting go doesn't mean letting go of the person you've lost. It means letting go of the memories of all the crap that went with it.
Okay.
It's to enhance your knowledge of life.
Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you. If you were to give a final message to the audience, Alec, what do you think that might be? You may have already said it.
Don't accept anything that you're told without looking at it. Don't just take things for granted. I think we're going to find that a lot of our history is a load of lies. I think people should just chill out and read my book. That's a good thing to do. No, seriously, I just think, understand that we are beings of love. Truly. And if you can connect with your heart and soul and resonate with that, you will have a happy life. I know what happiness is. If I can explain my happiness, like if you can imagine the most happiest moment of your life, well, my life is like that all the time. Because I have created that happiness for myself. I don't have negativity.
And that is just goes to prove how powerful we are, and that we all have that ability. And I've really, really appreciated you sharing your message with us. Now, I know there was a lot more that we could have talked about. We are out of time right now completely. And I just want to say, well, yeah, all I can say is, Alex, thank you so much for joining us today. And I can't wait to get you on for a future interview for the new books.
Well, thanks for inviting me. I've really, really enjoyed doing this show. Thank you.
Well, we've come to an end on tonight's show. Don't forget that you can watch and listen to all our past interviews on The More Show's official YouTube channel. Remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel for new daily shows. You may also find out more on all past and upcoming guests on the show via themoreshow.co.uk, and do like us on Facebook and Twitter for the latest updates. So until next time, be safe.